and action. All right. So, hi, Tara. Welcome.
Well, hello. Hello. Say your name for me properly. I keep saying to myself, Chrysanthi.
Yes, that's
Is that
it.
correct?
That's correct.
Yay.
Yes.
Good.
You're one of the very few people that can pronounce it, especially in the first attempt. So I'm really, really impressed.
Oh, well,
Most
thank you.
people, most people get that wrong. I get Chrysanthony, Sandy.
That makes me think of a flower, the chrysanthemum,
Yes, yeah.
right? A compliment,
Thank you.
right?
Thank you. So, Tara, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's so great to have you on here. I can't wait to get into some of the questions that I want to ask you today for my audience and really unpack all your experience in the digital marketing space, because I know you have quite a lot. And really share with our audience today all things digital marketing, social media related, and how to show up online and grow your audience and your business. So really looking forward to that. But for people that don't know who you are and getting to meet you for the first time on the show, who is Tara O'Malley in your own words?
Well, I am the creator of the Algorithm Advantage. So I am an entrepreneur by spirit, by heart. I opened my first business. It was a promotional marketing company. When I was 19 years old, my father owned a business. So, from a very young age, I was always kind of, nose in the books, trying to figure out how do we do this business thing? How do I learn how to do it myself, right? So that was instilled in me in a very young age. So I came into the online space about 2 years ago. And my first order of business, because I knew that I wanted to be based, first and foremost, I'm a huge believer in, being the master of one thing before I start spreading myself out amongst, like in this case, multiple platforms. I think a lot of people run into roadblocks with that, kind of spreading themselves too thin and, kind of, we'll say like being a jack of all trades, master of none. I'm a strong believer in you should do one thing very, very, very well, predominantly.
Yep.
Like you should 100% master your first platform. So I put myself right to work with that when I came into the space. In my professional career over the years before I came into the online space, I was in the auto industry for many, many moons, and I was always, pulling the back end data and always looking at the analytics and customer behavior and ad send behavior and just the guts of the business as far as I'm concerned. What's working, what's not, what do we build from, what do we drop, that type thing. So I knew first and foremost that I was going to have to do the same thing on Instagram. So, I got really busy with that straight away. And from all of that data and testing and acquired information came the Algorithm Advantage.
So that was what initially sparked your interest, would you say? You were in a role that was very heavily data consumed, and you could start to see, hey, hold on a second, but there's a lot more that I can do with this skill set rather than working for someone else for the rest of my career. Why not?
Well, that was a really big part of it. I had been in the auto industry for nearly 2 decades. And, I going back to the master of one concept, I've always operated that way. So when I
Yeah.
started in the auto industry, I started as a receptionist and then became a cashier and worked in the service department and went into business development center, and there was no position that I did not master inside of the dealership because I knew that I wanted to climb with that.
Yeah.
Um and for many, many moons, I allowed myself to get comfortable in that industry, knowing, with the mindset that I was building a career here and I've been working towards this and there's nothing I don't know about it. And I'm the master of my craft. And about 2 years ago, I started doing a lot more traveling, and I came to find that every time I came back, I was more and more devastated.
Yeah.
Every time I came back and went back to work, I was just lesser and lesser of my true self, of my true
Mm.
soul, right? So I felt, I felt like a piece of me was depleting with that. So with those feelings, I kind of said, well, I'm pretty smart and I'm pretty talented. So let me go see how to do this over here.
Yep.
So I started doing, my investigative work and my research. And that brought me to the point where, well, I just completely reverse engineered the platform of Instagram and I reverse engineered the algorithm. And I said, all right, well, now that I have, now that I have the data, I know what to
Mhm.
do.
So where do you look for the data when you're in Instagram and you're reverse engineering? What does that mean exactly? If someone's listening to this for and thinking about getting into the digital marketing landscape, they're
Hmm.
thinking about using Instagram as that first platform that
Hmm.
they want to master. Like you said, get rid of the shiny object syndrome, get rid
Right.
of trying to be a jack of all trades, but not really mastering any
Mhm.
platforms, stick to the one lane. And in this case, an instance, it's going to be Instagram.
Right.
How does one master that? Like, what are the steps that they should really be looking at when they are reverse engineering to understand that platform well enough to say, okay, this is as far as I can go with this platform. I've stretched it and I've taken it as far as I can. Now it's time to move on to the next one.
Well, first and foremost, I think that there's a lot of things, when I talk about reverse engineering, I think a lot of people are mildly intimidated by that because it might sound, a little more complex than it is. And a lot of people might think, well, I'm not an engineer or, I'm not entirely tech savvy or I don't even know what that means. Right. So there's an intimidation factor when it comes to any type of reverse engineering. But the simplest way to put it is you start with your desired outcomes. Basically, you just
Hmm.
start with what you want and you work it back to the beginning of
Yep.
the process. And for this factor, almost entirely, especially in the digital marketing space where, so many people get involved in digital marketing because they maybe have seen an advertisement saying, oh, you can post 7-second reels on Instagram and make a ton of money. Now, there's a portion of that that's true, but there's
Hmm.
also a lot that's left out. So when someone comes into the online space and they're not entirely familiar with business or the inner workings or how to get where they want to be from where they are, this is where the reverse engineering comes into play. But there is so many intimidating factors already at play that just the phrase reverse engineering, people throw their hands in the air. This isn't what I signed up for. And it could be a very overwhelming process for a lot of people who have so much potential to be successful in this space. But, there's a lot left unsaid and there's not, a common translation for a lot of it.
Hmm.
So this actually is why I built the algorithm advantage because I noticed that so many people were kind of giving up or telling themselves maybe this isn't for me. I bit off more than I can chew. So, I just wanted to just hack it down and put it in
Hmm.
layman's terms. So the simplest way to describe it is you start with your desired results. So depending on
Hmm.
what aspect of Instagram you're looking at. If you're looking at content creation, I'm going to look at the content that is getting the highest views and I'm going to work that back. I'm going to say, all right, well, what is the framework of this content? Was this a fluke or is this something that is viral across every niche, this framework? I'm going to
Hmm.
take a look at the metrics. How often was this shared? How frequently was the keyword commented? So within those metrics, I know that I need to take a look at that caption and start doing some comparative work with that. So after all of the research that I have done, whether it be, your own metrics or content creation or monetization, what I've done is stretched that research across, my goodness, so many different accounts and so many different niches. And I put together a framework that is very simply formatted and very easy to understand, and a system to very simply follow for the people in the digital marketing space or small accounts or small creators, that they can take it and translate it to any niche.
Okay. Tara, if I can just get you to maybe come a little forward, because the lighting is going straight on your face, and right now it's just a ball of light, but I can't
Oh,
see you.
that's my angelic hue. Is that better?
Yes.
I
So much.
dimmed it. Is that a little better?
That's better. Yes. So
Okay.
yes, thank you. Thank you. So thank you so much for that breakdown and that explanation. So there's your reverse engineering, you're looking at many different metrics, and that could potentially, and naturally that's all going to be outlined in detail in your course, where you step
Yes.
your students through it and you explain to them, looking at your roadmap of the stages that one would need to go through to really reverse engineer and break down the data in such a way where you can clearly understand what's working and what's not working. But at a very high level, would you say that some of the areas that one would really need to be focusing on are things like the niche, the hook, the content on that hook, the time of day, the day of week, um, and the trending audio? I'm hearing some are saying it's out. Hashtags, trending audios, it's a thing of the past. What are your thoughts on that?
My
I'm really
favorite
curious to
topic.
know.
I I might sound a little cynical to say this, but I'll say it with that risk. We have to always remember that we're still on the internet and sometimes people still suck. So,
Okay.
there's
Yep.
there's there's freedom of speech, and there are
One
a
would
lot of
hope, but
people.
given the current state of the world, I don't even know anymore. But one would hope that there's still freedom of speech.
Right. Yeah. Well, you never know. You might get arrested for anything these days too.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yes. Yes.
But, my point in saying that is the fact that there are a lot of people who will say things just to say things. And, the ethical issue that I run into with that is just the fact that, it just defines the fact of what I found to be true, which is
Mhm.
there are so many people in this space that are lost, and
Yeah.
they'll listen to anybody. Like, they'll try
Yeah.
anything because they're so desperate to grow.
Mhm.
So we can break a couple of them down. First, I'll start with the trending audios because I'm a little notorious for being anti-trending audio. First of all, it's some of the worst audios I've ever heard that are on
Yeah.
like the trending audio list.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the problems that we run into is, lack of education, truly,
Mhm.
because, everyone, when they're creating their reel, most people were taught content creation backwards. Like, you pick a reel, you pick a 6, 7 second video, and you get your hook in there and make sure it matches with your caption. And then at the end, you slap on that #1 trending audio. Well, that's a terrible idea.
Mm.
That's just a terrible idea because, first and foremost, we really have to always be reminded and understand that Instagram is an entertainment platform.
Yeah.
So even if you're running a business, which is a very small percentage of us actually, 90% of the people on Instagram are here for a show. They're here for a laugh. So
Yeah.
if you're trying to get out to non-followers or even have respect for your own audience, give them a show, give them something that's going to entertain them. So when it comes to trending audio, I don't think that the lesson is fully there for everyone. Everyone just goes right to that top 50 trending list. And there are literally tens of thousands of audios that are
Mhm.
trending on Instagram all the time. Some of them have what I call a viral resume, meaning
Mhm.
they're never not trending. Like, these
Right.
are audios where when I say viral resume, you can look at it anytime. You can pull it up at any given really time. This first reel is 3 mil, 4 mil, 7 mil, 5 mil. It's just got a viral resume, but
Right.
it's not on the trending list,
Right. So it doesn't
right?
even have that little arrow button that's going up to let you know that that's a trending audio. It just has the volume of views, but it's not trending.
Well, no, it will be trending. You just won't
Right.
find it on the trending list. So,
Oh,
there
on the top.
should be, when I say there's a lack of education here, most people think that the only audios that are trending are what is on the list. And it is so much, you have so many more opportunities to entertain than
Right.
what is initially perceived.
So when you say the trending list, are we talking about that initial list that shows up as you're about to post your reel, the top 50, or I'm not sure
Right.
exact on the exact number, but you're referring to that list. You're saying go out there and search further, search deeper. There's so
100%.
much more audio that you can use. Don't just be restricted to the first list that shows up as you're about to post your reel. But
Yes.
in saying that, still look for that little arrow with the message that lets you know that's a trending piece. But
Right.
don't just be restricted to the initial list that comes up when you're about to post your reel.
Yeah,
Got
and
you.
there's a lot of different ways that you can find these. Myself personally, I'll go on to my mentor pages or DJ pages, or you can
Yeah.
find them on Explore page. Of
Yeah.
course, you can search your niche in your search bar, anything like that, to find what is going to work for you. And I have always found success when the audio matches your content.
Mm,
And if you just slapped on that number one trending, and of course, I've tested it.
yeah.
Posted, I think I have probably about 10 viral reels.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've gone into trial reels and I've tested them as is, and poof, there we go, viral again. And then
Wow.
I'll test them with the number one trending audio. I'll get like
Mm-hmm.
200 views. So obviously, when it comes to creating content, this is also something that I talk about inside The Advantage. Not a lot of new people are really taught how to create content, or very few people are reminded of the fact that Instagram is an entertainment platform. So even if
Yeah.
you have 500 followers, you're a content creator. It's your job to entertain those people while you educate, while you grow, while you learn. And, there is a learning process behind that, of course, just like
Uh-huh.
anything else, but there's also a framework behind those steps.
So it is you're storytelling, you're entertaining, you're evoking an emotion. It needs to be the reels, so that short video or carousel of images with the right hook and the right content and the right sound to really bring it to life, essentially, and give your audience the end show, the
Yeah,
overall.
there's another very common misunderstanding. That's always like a common topic of mine, is I like to clear up the misunderstandings because there are so many, right? There's
Yeah.
so many people that are trying to get this right, and so many people trying to plug it all in and get it all together. And what I found was there was no real place where everything was put together for everybody in one place, with the framework, with for the people who are faceless content, with the faceless content, with the AI content, talking about how to utilize this in any niche, and
Mhm.
talking about the way the algorithms are actually broken down for a creator to understand and trigger, talking about content creation and what that actually means. There are so many people who are really under the impression that the hook is just the words that you have on your screen.
Right.
And that really couldn't be further from the truth either.
Wow. So what
Yeah,
is the hook? I mean, is that part of the hook though, the content on the screen?
it's part of the hook. So something that I teach inside of The Advantage is the symphony hook. So
Right.
your content should be orchestrated like a beautiful symphony. And
Right.
it comes down to the audio that you have in place that matches the video, and you're hitting those visual ticks, you're hitting those visual pulls on your screen changes, And your entire piece of content, even though it may only be 7 seconds, that has to be a symphony.
Right.
Whether, the movement, like you'll see in a lot of, you know, my content, I've had people tell me that I have very much horror movie vibes in my content because, it's emotional. It's the music is matching the way I'm coming at the screen, or if it's more upbeat, I'm changing positions every 3 seconds on the beat drops. And you know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's part of your hook. So when people say, oh, the hook, the hook, the hook,
Yeah.
most people are referring to, because they've only been taught that the hook is just the words that you're using on the screen. And there's really just so much more to that. And so that's why I call it the symphony hook.
So you believe that small accounts can grow on
Oh, yeah.
Instagram currently, whereas a lot of people
100%.
are talking about, small accounts not having the advantage that the larger accounts have. Why do you believe that they do have the advantage?
Well, small accounts have a lot more leverage. They can pull and push so much more than, for example, a big account. If you're in a larger account and you go to test something, you could potentially lose a large portion of your audience. So big
Mm,
accounts kind of are, they're stuck where they are. Be the equivalent of turning a barge around for them to do a pivot or something like this. Whereas small accounts, you have more of an ability to pick up traction more quickly the way that you are positioned. So there's a reference that I use for small accounts who are, basically surrounded by everyone in their niche, right? The echo chamber is what I call it.
mhm,
So when you are a small account, you have more access to these algorithm triggers and the signals that the algorithm and Instagram are searching for to push content out than you ever could as a big creator. Because number one, you're in a niche bubble or the echo chamber. We've all been in one, And, truth be told, it's a very supportive place. It's people who want to see each other win. It's all entrepreneurial minded people. So I go in and I like your stuff, and you come back and you like my stuff. And, we're able to give each other the traction to
mhm.
trigger these signals that the algorithm is looking for. And when I'm looking at the data here on this with small accounts, your percentage is going to be 50%, 100%. If you're starting to reach non-followers, sometimes 250% your own followers. So that puts your non-follower reach immediately up to 80%. 90%. So Instagram is just going to look at the data. It's going to look at
Mhm.
the percentages, the averages. So if I only have 500 followers and I have 1,500 views, and all the people I'm in the echo chamber with are like, love this, great post. I like the way you broke this down. And, you know, they're giving me that signal. They're
Mhm.
triggering the algorithm for me, and I'm
Mhm.
doing it for them. So
Mhm.
small accounts are able to pick up traction on a much faster pace than a larger account. Now, where a lot of newer accounts, smaller creators kind of get stuck here is, well, they just get stuck with, they're not where they want to be yet, for example. Like all of my followers are digital marketers, or I'm in fitness and all of my followers are other fitness
Mm.
instructors, or whichever the niche may be, whether it be real estate or anything else, like any niche. That's how you train the algorithm. You must. It's a part of it's your initiation process into Instagram, right? And so a lot of people get stuck there. And this happens upstairs. So when you're stuck upstairs, you start questioning yourself instead of remembering the mission and understanding what's happening along the way and being able to kind of, self assess readjust and tweak your content along the way. A lot of times, what I see happening is small accounts, small creators will get stuck in this space, but really it's because they're stuck in their own head.
How do you get unstuck? Because I feel like I'm going through that at the moment. I'm
Yes.
online and exactly right. It's the initiation process, and everyone will tell you Instagram is you need to show up on Instagram and you need to tell the algorithm how you want to be found. So you need to like similar pages, people in your space, follow other creators, so on and so forth. But then you're right, you only get that back. So you only get other digital marketers following you, and you're growing in front of an audience that you can't really do business with. So how do you get out of that space and into the area on Instagram where more people are likely to find you, the people that you want to be placed in front of, which is not going to be, in my instance, digital marketers or
Right.
business owners or big time creators. It's
Mhm.
people that are wanting to get into the space that are not in there at the moment.
So, there's a lot to break down here. Throughout your growth process, there's going to be pivot points.
Yeah.
Your first pivot is, something that I call like the shift that needs to occur. This is all like a sad fate that most of these topics are not discussed or, even touched upon really, is when I start in the online space and I realize I'm a digital marketer, all my audience is digital marketers. My number one goal is I want to get out and over the rainbow. I want to get to my over the rainbow audience. I don't want to be in the echo chamber. I want to go over the rainbow. So, in order to get over the rainbow, we have to utilize the leverage that we have inside of the echo chamber. When training the algorithm, there's maybe 1 out of 10,000 accounts that just get lucky and go viral. Probably it's a
Mhm.
lesser ratio than that. And they're, poof over the rainbow straight away, right? It's not common. It's not manageable. It's not teachable. It's, virality. It's just, it happens sometimes. Nobody can explain why. And the problem too with that is the people that happens to, they don't know why they went viral either.
Wow.
So they're
Okay.
not able to replicate that process. And most of them get their little punch up of a couple hundred followers and then they're, 2 steps back really. But, the first thing to understand when you're inside of the echo chamber is, do you have an offer audience match or mismatch?
Mhm.
Okay. So when I talk about the pivot points along the way, you really have to, first of all, be aware that they exist. Like when I talk about the echo chamber, a lot of people don't know that it exists. And there's still a lot of people that don't know they're in one. They're just posting and posting. And I see this quite frequently where, I'll see a digital marketer and say they have 800 followers and all of their followers are digital marketers, but they're talking to people who aren't in digital marketing yet. They're
Mhm.
talking to people who are all in the 9 to 5 and maybe want to start digital marketing,
Yep.
but all of their followers are already digital marketers.
Yes. Yep.
Right. So this is a lot of wheel spinning, and I'm going to say this with confidence. Nobody's making any sales with that equation. You don't have an offer for your audience. So, I also talk about this again frequently because I think understanding where you are is a
Mhm.
huge part of knowing how to get where you're going.
Mhm.
Right. So, the first thing that I tell all of my students is, first and foremost, like before you get out and over the rainbow, you have to learn how to solve the problems in your own backyard.
Mhm.
Because so much about this is positioning yourself as an authority. And I don't mean authority like to be like a boss or bossy or, you know, egotistical or anything else like this. I mean
Mhm.
more, I use the word authority because that's the common phrase, right? But really what I mean is you have to be a leader. You opened a business.
Mhm.
Like, we're going to need that version of you that
Mhm.
saw this and said, I can do this. I know I can do this.
Mhm.
I'm doing this. We
Mhm.
need that version
Mhm.
the person. Whether you're feeling stuck or frustrated or wherever you are, no matter what, we need that version. And it
Where does that version start showing up exactly, though? Does that person start showing up in someone's written content, storytelling, that version of themselves, the knowledge that they have, the authority that they're bringing into that space? Does that person appear in reels where they're talking about that? They're sharing their knowledge, their tips, their advice, where they're trying to herd their traffic? Like, how does that person show up in that space? Is it a combination of all of the above? What
I
does that
think
look like?
first and foremost, that person has to show up here.
Yeah,
That person has to show up for themselves first and foremost. And
yeah,
I'm a pretty strong believer in energy. So if
yeah,
I myself have weakened energy, I'm not very confident, I'm not giving myself the credit I should be giving myself because I started a business. That's a big deal, right? But if
yeah,
I'm not super confident about that, it's going to show in my content because I'm not fully confident and I'm even questioning myself. So I think a lot of that comes to each person individually with what they
right.
know and what they don't know. So, I'm not sure how much of my content you've seen, but almost every single piece of my content is like an information bomb. Like
Right.
I tell everybody everything because that is a part of leadership. I want to arm my audience with the knowledge to
Yeah.
succeed. I want to arm my audience with the knowledge they need to develop that confidence. So, it's always going to be an inside job and it always comes from up here. But I think, the more you begin to understand something, and this is true in just about anything I've ever seen, when someone begins to teach something themselves,
Hmm.
they in turn become better at it.
What's your view on AI leading this space at the moment? We talk about stepping into authority, owning the space, and
Mhm.
everything that we've just gone through. Yet I jump online, especially as of late, and there's just AI everywhere. Creators are following you, and you're going on their space, and you can't see real people anymore. Everyone is just an animated version. You don't really know who it is that you're talking to. But how can someone, and there's also a lot of faceless accounts as well, as we
Right,
know in the
yeah.
digital product space. Yet some of these people are saying that they are making money. Others you would question, are they really monetizing their account as best as they can? How does one connect with a page and a business?
I look at AI as an accelerator. It's my
Mhm.
friend, it's not going anywhere, so
No.
I'm gonna be friends with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I
Gonna
think
let
it's
it be
great.
my
I think,
bestie if I want it to be.
yeah.
When it comes to AI content, you're right. It's everywhere. So it's not so much that any of it is just AI, but the question is, what are you using the AI for?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're replacing yourself with I mean,
And
one
there's a
thing that
lot of
I
that.
have, what's that?
There's a lot of that at the moment. So not so much the software that someone's using to generate and create content to really accelerate their business, more so the avatars that we're seeing showing up
Yeah.
online. Does that give someone that isn't afraid to show up, face forward, get on camera, build a authentic connection with their audience, does that give them the upper hand or not? I mean,
It
I can
depends.
appreciate that there's so much more. It's not just showing up on camera. And I'm all for that. But then I just sort of question all these other accounts that are starting to pop up and no one's sharing who they are anymore. It's just avatars everywhere. I'm like, is
Yeah.
this the way forward or are they really going to struggle and is it short lived?
Well, it depends on how you run your AI content. There's a lot of faceless avatars. I noticed something back in the late spring, early summer, and there's a difference between a trend and a shift. So I noticed a shift happening with AI content. And there is a lot of successful AI content. I test a ton of it all the time. I was a cartoon for a couple days just recently. And I use a lot of different, stick figure features or, analogy features or imagery from AI. So it's how you use it. I'm still very face forward. I guess I would consider myself to be a hybrid, if you will.
Yeah.
But so the shift is the AI content. AI content is not going anywhere. It's how you use it that is going to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
There was a very large surge that became a trend. And the trend was, having AI content and making AI content to sell AI content. And, I'm not a huge fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
There I said it because it is very important. Sure, if you want to be faceless, I do think that faceless kind of took, or I'm sorry, AI avatars and such kind of took the role of previously what we were seeing with all these different boss babe kind of faceless accounts and things like that. So AI, I feel like kind of stepped in on that because of the AI shift. But the trend that started happening was, well, there's this AI course and there's this AI course. And for a couple months there, like a new one was popping up once a week. So that would be the trend portion of it. So what we're going to end up finding here in, I think, Q4 is a lot of faceless AI creators that have learned how to create faceless AI avatar content to sell faceless avatar content, but no
Mm-hmm.
one is teaching anybody about Instagram. No one is teaching anybody about the algorithm, and no one is teaching anyone how to run a long-term and sustainable business on Instagram. I have an AI course inside of the Algorithm Advantage. We have Advantage AI, but I
Mm-hmm.
refuse to make it available outside of the Algorithm Advantage because I want people to learn how to do this long term. I want you to learn the whole thing, not
Mm-hmm.
just how to make AI content to sell an AI content course, because that's going to be short lived. And I think, anyone that is here to run a business, to create additional levels of stability for themselves, they're not going to do it through a trend. It's going to be done through understanding the shift.
Okay, excellent. Just further on that, so you mentioned that you started blending AI into your strategies.
Mhm.
How do you see AI shaping the future of online entrepreneurship and social media? You've kind of already briefly touched upon that, but if you could expand just a little further across the board.
Well, for someone like me, I'm an advocate for educational content. I want
Yeah,
people to learn how to get this right, how to do this on their own, how to reverse engineer, and that it's not actually that scary.
yeah,
I think the AI covers a lot of bases, right? Like I have AI all over the place, running my email flows and doing, certain areas of my marketing and my responding and automations and things like this. But as far as the content portion is concerned, I think it's good for educational content.
yeah,
I think it can be very powerful, especially when you have those kind of visual analogies.
yeah.
I mean, I'll be posting one tomorrow morning that we've made, and it's, what Instagram looks like if you post once a day and it's kind of depleting, and then what it looks like if you post 3 times a day consistently. Right. So it's easy to follow and very easy to understand. It's all AI. It's kind of fun to watch. Right. And then, of course, it's how it's paired with the information as well. As far as, doing different types of, like I said, I had been a cartoon here for the past like 48 hours. There's a lot of testing that can be done, right? So I test different types of AI content to see what is getting looked at more, what is getting shared more, what is getting saved more, and why. So when I break it down into different types of AI content, whether it be a singular post with my cartoon self or a reel with, a cartoon of me driving. I've tried a couple where I split it up where it would be my cartoon and then it cuts to me and then the cartoon. So it's kind of interesting to watch as well. But, it's always going to be there. It's never going anywhere. I think, again, it's how you use it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you know, the more effort and education you can put into your content when it is AI, the more effective it's going to be.
Okay, yeah. Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you. What mistakes or setbacks have you experienced in your online career? And what do you think they've taught you the most? And how do you coach your students through those same lessons? Because I feel like our setbacks, that's where you really learn the lessons the deepest, right? When things are going really well, you're on a
Yeah.
run, generally you're on autopilot, go, 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 and then bang, something goes pear-shaped, right? Like, for example, I recently had my Facebook ads account. As we know, Meta's just a joy to work with. If you've ever
Love
had
it.
any
Yeah.
experience. Oh, we're great. Sarcasm there, by the way, for anyone that's
I
listening.
caught that. Yeah.
But, and prior to that, I was on a decent run. And then bang, Meta happened. New account had to be set up. All my followers had to be moved across. Couldn't run any campaigns. Everything had to be organic. And here I am trying to get 2 businesses off the ground simultaneously. And it was just, they were not responding at all. And boy, did I learn in that process many
Mm.
things. And I think it also got me to start thinking about other things that I needed to really perfect or strengthen before I could move into, running the advertisements. And it was
Yeah.
almost a good time, so I'm quite spiritual and I believe in signs and I believe that everything's happening for a reason. And it really got me to sort of sit with that and think about, wait, hold on, what is the universe trying to draw my attention to? So I guess without rambling on any further, because this is not about me, this is about asking you this question, but I just wanted to sort of give you some
No, I
context.
agree with you. I'm a universe person too. I'm a sign person too. Like there's a lesson here. I'm always looking
Yeah,
for it. When things don't go, the way that you expect them to go or wish for them to go, there's a reason for that.
yeah.
You know, a
What
lot of times
what would
it's
you what would you say your lessons have been, like, your setbacks, and what did you learn whilst you were going through them? And how do you teach your students to do the same?
would say when I first began, my biggest lesson was, I'm not as smart as I think I am. Getting over myself was the best thing that I have ever done because of course, I'm kind of smart. Opened my first business when I was 19, internet director, data analysis, right? Like I know stuff.
Yeah.
And then I came onto Instagram and realized no, I didn't.
Isn't that a
Nope.
good place to be though?
Yeah.
Like when you're sitting, I often feel like when you're in environments where, and sometimes you're in environments where you're overqualified, and that's a sign in
Right.
itself that you're not in the right place and it's time to get moving. But when
Right.
you find yourself in a position in life where you're like, hey, I've got so much room to grow here. There's so much that I don't know. Isn't that in itself a sign that you're exactly where it is that you're meant to be?
Yes, 100%. However, I didn't like it very much.
No, I don't think many of us do. It
Well,
really bruises
I
our
I said, well, I didn't like it very much at all.
no.
But, that's part of the process, and I wouldn't be able to have created the algorithm advantage if
Yeah,
I did not go through that. So,
yeah,
you know, the first account that I opened, I kinda showed up like, "I got this,
yeah,
100%." Like, I'm really good at business. I know, like, I'm reading myself my own resume, basically.
yeah,
And, then it just my first account I was so not understanding what was happening because I was in an echo chamber and I didn't know I was in an echo chamber. And, I started asking questions to myself that I think everybody asks, but
uh-huh,
nobody really charges after. Because
uh-huh,
I know for a fact if I have a question, so do all of these people.
yeah,
Everybody else does too. Maybe I'm the loud one. Maybe I'm audacious, ambitious, aggressive. However, anybody would like to word it is fine with me. But it's like this, if I don't get it, something's wrong. Like I felt like I wasn't being told everything. And the more
uh-huh,
people I was talking to, it was like, okay, see, I'm not alone in this. Like there are so many things here that that I am failing to understand.
Mm.
So when I failed in my first account, I just shut it down. It didn't take me long to fail at all. It happened immediately. It's my favorite way to fail. Right away.
Fail fast, keep moving
Yeah,
forward.
fail
How to
fast.
grow
Hurry
into
up.
your succeed.
Right. So there was, a period of time where I said, all right, there is something missing here.
Mhm,
There's like a huge gap of missing information in between when someone first gets started
mhm,
and when things start to work. There is a huge gap of missing information. So that's when I shut down my first account, and I had opened up like 3 or 4 other accounts as testing fields. So
mhm,
I have one in the travel niche. I have one for women. I have faceless marketing pages, and another one. I have 4 other accounts that I opened to start fielding these tests to find out what was
mhm,
going on. And this was all a part of the process of, the reverse engineering of the platform and the reverse engineering of the algorithm, because that's the guts of the operation. That's what I need to learn.
mhm,
Everybody needs to learn if they're going to make it here. So,
mhm,
I made it my mission to break it down piece by piece and find exactly how this platform works, how
mhm,
the algorithm, because it's a programmed machine, there's triggers to
mhm,
it. I know this.
mhm,
I know this, but I didn't know what they were yet. So,
mhm.
when I was doing all this research and all this testing and putting everything together, I was, I was pretty dumbfounded. I was actually shocked and appalled that nobody was teaching anybody this.
So is that how, like, how did you go from in your echo chamber, you're learning all the things, you failed one account, you've set up other accounts, you're testing, analyzing, reverse engineering. At what point, like, when was that shift where you went from zero to making your first 6 figures online?
When I came out of the darkness, I'll say, after I had run all these tests and analysis and I knew what it was now, like I'm able to look at these programs like, uh, like a children's book. I can just
Mhm,
look right at them and say, well, there it is right there. And once I started translating that information to very simple layman's terms, everyday terms, make it very easy and digestible, that's when I opened Tara O'Malley Official. That's when it wasn't Tara O'Malley Official at the time. I had opened this account under digitalmarketing.money online because I learned how important SEO
mm,
way that Instagram is programmed. So as a
right.
new account, when you're growing, SEO is such a huge factor in your messaging, where you're
Mhm.
going, if anywhere, according to Instagram.
So I'm just going to stop you. I'm just going to stop you there just really quickly for anyone that's listening to this right now, questioning what is SEO and how does SEO impact Instagram. Do you mind elaborating on that a little
Oh,
more?
absolutely. Absolutely. So SEO, of course, is search engine optimized. Now, a big part, and all of this ties together. Everything is a full circle moment, right? So when I said earlier, and you were asking, how does someone come into that space of confidence? How does someone become that leader, become that person, the authority person in their community or
Mm,
in their niche? Well, if you think about SEO like this, which is really, yeah, it's kind of the only way to think about it when you're in this space here. All SEO is other people's problems. So when people are looking for, how do I get good at this digital marketing thing? How do I grow on Instagram? How do I trigger the algorithm? How do I reach non-followers? That's what they're putting into their search bar. How do
right.
I grow on Instagram? How do I trigger the algorithm? How do I reach non-followers? That's where we get our SEO from. It's search engine optimized because those are the things that are searched the most in those search
Mhm,
bars. So
right. So
When you
are you saying that someone needs to, step one, what are the problems that people have? What you've just explained. Step two, what are we then doing once we've identified that? Are we then creating content around those topics and using them with every post that we put up on our Instagram page? That's step two? And then that content would go on the hook, the post, the
yeah,
images around that.
this is the portion where uh, you want to be in algorithmic alignment, especially if you're in a new account. The algorithm needs a little bit of time to understand you, who you are, what you're all about, where is it going to put your content. So what it will do, this machine, is it will take the SEO from your content and
Uh-huh.
match it up to the people who are searching for those things.
Got you.
So there's a couple things when I say algorithmic alignment. This is another reason I just had to create the algorithm advantage is, of course, there's thousands of algorithms inside of Instagram.
Uh-huh.
However, there's categorically speaking 7 areas of focus that a creator needs to be very well aware of at all times. It's going to be your profile categorization. That has its own algorithm. Your DMs have its own algorithm. Stories, your reels, your home feed, your explore, your caption NLP. All of these, when I say algorithmic alignment, all of these algorithms kind of check in with one another. Meaning, if you get a green light from your profile categorization, actually, the profile categorization algorithm is the one that I call the sniper. That's my little nickname for it because this algorithm will have you out there like you think you're playing first string, but this algorithm benched you like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And
We all
you
want to hear
don't
that.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So for example, if you have a reel that's taking off when I'm going over these checkpoints that I'm talking about, if I have a reel that's taking off and it's doing really well, it's been 1 hour, I have 1,000 views, it's shooting straight up. Before it gets to a certain point, there's a checkpoint with the other algorithms. So if I don't get that green check mark from, for example, the profile categorization algorithm, that reel dies.
Wow. So when you talk about your profile categorization, we're talking about the description right under your name, correct?
We're talking about the whole profile.
So we're talking about the name, your handle, your bio, and then the
Your
images.
highlights are included in that.
Your highlights are included in that, right? So, for example, right now, with, let's just say myself as an example, right? I am very much, my content is geared towards, you're a professional or an entrepreneur, professional being that may currently be working 9 to 5 now, but they're looking at going out on their own. That's
Mhm.
my target market. My target market is, you want to break free from the 9 to 5, I can get you there, right? This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This is the experience that I've had. Is it drop shipping? Is it content creation? Is it creating products? And let's get you a footprint on the internet, whether that's a website, whether that's social media, and let's get you posting. Let's get you understanding your audience, your content pillars, so on and so forth. And I feel like my reels and my bio match that, but my audience does not. So my audience is very much digital marketers currently, but that's because we've been taught that you have to attract people in your space and also uh, uh, optimize the search to show up in front of other other bigger accounts in entrepreneurship, content creation, so on and so forth. So are you saying that now when I post my content, because the audience is not correct, that's just going to zap the reel
Not
or not?
necessarily, because what we're talking about now is being inside of the echo chamber.
Yes, very
So
much
you're
so.
you're still getting all of your engagement
Yeah,
from, friendly transfers, your
yeah,
fan clubs inside the
yeah.
echo chamber, right? We are looking to utilize those triggers, but at the same time, this is a very difficult place if you don't understand the pivots along the way. because
Mhm.
right now you're talking to people who maybe want to get started in the
Mhm.
online space, but everyone in your audience has already gotten started in the
Yeah.
online space. So this could be what I would call a pivotal moment. There
Mhm.
are, I mean, I guess a good question that I would ask you is, do you have an offer for your audience, for your current audience?
So I had an offer and I recently canned that, not canned that offer, but I was promoting DWA. I do not. And well, DWA is still there, but I'm not actively promoting it. So I'm currently in the process where I'm working with the team where I'm creating and designing my own course. Right.
Good.
So YouTube, the podcast. These are the two main platforms that I'm directing traffic towards today. Behind the scenes, I'm working on an offer as we speak, and it's going to be a series of 2 low ticket items and then 1 master course. So that's in construction as we speak. But initially, when I first started, because we all got to start somewhere,
Yeah.
I'm all for start, even if you're not 100% ready, start showing up on the internet, start posting, start engaging, just
Right.
get messy, learn publicly. It's all good. It's
Right.
okay.
Nobody
You're not
cares.
gonna die.
Right.
You're gonna be okay. So I started off with DWA along with a few other MRR courses. I quickly realized this space is saturated and everyone's already bought these courses. And although they're great to learn from, why not? Knowledge is knowledge. I think that you can always be acquiring more.
Right.
But I knew that there wasn't a viable, strong business by reselling them. I mean, I just feel like it's been done. And I
Right.
think that it's the initial content creators that created the courses that are really making the money, not people that are on selling their courses. It's just my opinion, right? Others may debate me on that and say, well, I've done X, Y, and Z. I am so happy for you. All good. Keep striving. And I wish you all the best. For me
Right.
personally, it just wasn't the case, right? And maybe I didn't want it to be the case. I think I realized, you know what? I actually want to start showing up and I want to be educating my students on what I've learned over the years and 10 years in running businesses, growing, scaling them, learning everything that I've learned across the
Right.
digital landscape, putting it in mini courses and selling that. So that's in the process, that's coming, but it's
Mhm.
not launched yet. So I know that I'm in the echo chamber and I think that there are so many of us in that space. And we know that we're in that space because I speak to these people on the internet. You like you said, it's a very supportive community, and you realize that as soon as you get in here, you're like, man, everyone's so friendly, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like this is great, and they're so supportive, and you follow them, and they follow you, and it's like I've never experienced anything like it before. It's definitely not the case in corporate.
Right.
I was like, this is a breath of fresh air, but there's no business here, so it's great that everyone's friendly, but that's not going to earn me a living.
So this is one of the first pivots that I talk about.
Yeah.
So when you're and there's never going to be a shortage of new digital marketers showing up on Instagram. 2
Yeah.
years ago it was like 5,000 new digital marketers show up on Instagram every single day. Today
Yeah.
it's much closer to 10,000, if not
Yeah.
exceeded that, or if it hasn't exceeded that yet. So, the first thing that I understood was, okay, this is my growth process.
Yeah.
I'm, in this digital marketing space, and this is exactly how I escaped the
Yeah.
echo chamber.
Right.
I understood, okay, I have this layout. I'm reading the algorithm like a book. I'm reading the Instagram platform like a book. I'm taking a look at, okay, this is how these programs run. So the first thing that something I had said earlier is the first thing I started doing was I started solving the problems in my own backyard. I
Mhm.
didn't I didn't find comfort in knowing that I was talking to people that weren't even there. So in my first account, I was creating content for people who hadn't started yet. Escape the 9 to 5. Your life, you weren't born to go to work, pay bills, and die, right?
Yeah.
Like appealing to people who haven't started digital marketing yet. But all of my audience was already digital marketers.
Yep.
So if I want to talk to myself, that is my own right.
Yep.
But I'm not okay with talking to people who aren't there. I was like, okay, like what is actually going on here? And this was, when I started to break everything down, and I started taking on students along this time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it was always the same kind of song and dance where, everyone is told you're going to be talking to people like you. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
in some shape or form. So if you're a teacher, you're going to be appealing to other teachers. If you're a nurse, you're going to be talking to nurses. Okay, here's the thing. If you're talking to nurses and you have 800 followers, even if you have nurses in your audience, they're already digital marketers.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you talking to?
We're not talking to anyone, right? And so how do we pay for ads?
No.
No. Okay.
I started doing ads. I ran an ad, I think like maybe 2 weeks ago because I just wanted to test it. And I mean, it didn't do better than any of my virals. So, I didn't really, I don't know. We'll take it with a grain of salt. We might do it again. We might not.
Okay.
But it wasn't, it wasn't anything massive where I was like, oh, wow, I have to keep running ads. Let me work this into the budget. It wasn't that. But it was when I made this shift and started solving the problems in my own backyard. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, I turned right to the SEO. What is the biggest problem for small accounts and small creators, struggling digital marketers?
Mm-hmm.
How do I reach non-followers? How do I trigger the algorithm? How do I grow on Instagram? So my initial shift was that I started solving the problems in my own backyard. Now, by doing that, I had not created the advantage yet. I was kind of like where you are now, where it was being born, but it was, it wasn't put all together yet. So I was building my coaching business and taking on students and teaching them the algorithm advantage before it was, born. And then what happened was my students all started getting out of the echo chamber one by one. They all started taking on additional audiences, other people because here's the thing with this first and initial shift is number one, and again, this is why I created the advantage. So that when you're going through this process, number one, you're talking about all the problems that everybody has, and you're showing up as the solution, reaching 90% non-followers, triggering the algorithm, reaching non-followers on purpose, how to grow on Instagram, things like this, making sales, all of those festering issues that, small accounts creators and especially digital marketers have in this space. So I wanted to create a product not only to help them get out of the echo chamber, but something that they could carry with them wherever they wanted to go. This is another problem is the shiny object syndrome is every 2 weeks, someone's changing a product, and you're not a solution when you do that. You're a flake.
Mm.
Call it like I see it. Call a spade, right? You're not helping anyone get out of where they are stuck. You have to be the solution. So, the algorithm advantage teaches you how to be the solution. So the first thing that I did was I shifted. I understood that this was going to be my first pivot. I'm going to solve the problems of the people around me. I'm going to teach everyone how to trigger the algorithm. I'm going to teach them how the algorithm works. I'm going to do the full breakdown. I'm going to translate it to every single day language so that people can say, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And that's literally what happens, right? And teach them how to create content and what the breakdown is and what those triggers are, what this beast really wants from us, right? So, the first thing, of course, was solving the problems of the people around you. This is going to additionally give you more outside audiences, more followers, because it doesn't matter if you're Lucy Lipstick over here or Bob the Builder from down the street. If you're on Instagram, you are in the search bar. Like, how do I grow on Instagram? How do I reach non-followers? Regardless, absolutely regardless of what your niche is. So when your SEO and the way you position yourself as a small account appeals to a broader audience, you are going to begin to grow much quicker than if you just stay inside your bubble and keep talking to people that aren't even there.
So get into SEO, start thinking as your ideal client, start looking at those search terms, start extracting that content, start putting it into your pillars, your hooks, your reels, your captions, your storyboards, your music, you start building a narrative around that, start telling that story and be really rich in content using those keywords, key terms, search phrase, really do your research essentially. Go on the tools, look at Keyword Planner, look at SEO Optimizer, start looking at where the volume is, where the traffic is, where the hits are, and start extracting that and start piecing that into your content on Instagram essentially. So what we want to do is we want to place the keywords as hooks and anchors. So you've got your, say for example, you have the treasure underneath the sea, and then your keyword, and that's all the content. And then you've got your keywords, which are the anchors that pull up the treasure from underneath the ocean and bring it to the surface. So the search engine can then find you and then push your content to the shore, so to speak, so people can find it and then people can come to you. But that's what we really want to do. So it's a combination of many things. It's everything that we've discussed.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah. So content, do your research, guys, understand the keywords, get into the minds and the hearts and the souls of the people that you see as your ideal clients. How do they think? How do they talk? How do they act? How do they feel? How do they move? Once we understand that, do your research, go on to the tools that are available online and understand what those keywords and phrases and terms look like and start piecing together the content that you're going to then share onto the search engine. Awesome. Okay. Now, on that note, for someone that's listening right now that feels stuck in the 9 to 5 and overwhelmed by social media, what's the very first step that they should take towards freedom?
The very first step that they should take is to embrace that feeling, because I think a lot of people want to begin, but are, again, very overwhelmed in the space and are really like, I don't know about this. A business on Instagram, that sounds a little risky, I think the first thing is always going to be belief in self. Other people are doing it. You can do this. I think one of the greatest tragedies in life is someone who has a thought and wants to do, wants to act, wants to be, wants to go, but then gets in their own way. So first and foremost, I'm always going to put it into the individual, because no matter who any of us are, you're not going to get anywhere without yourself. And if you're the one who's holding yourself back or putting yourself down, or if you're the one who's not taking the action or saying the things but not doing the things, you're always going to be your own worst enemy. So I think the first thing is, make sure you got that checkup from the neck up, and you just have all of your understanding of what it is you want to achieve, and give yourself permission to go after that. Once you've done that, I recommend, I'm not going to lie, I recommend the Algorithm Advantage. There are so many people who get started in digital marketing with this understanding that we can post a couple things online and we're never going to have a job again. Darling, there is a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
And that was that, that's that gap that I was talking about earlier between where you got started and where you want to be. There's all of this missing pieces in the middle. You have to understand the platform. You have to understand the echo chamber. You have to understand how to train the algorithm. You have to understand how to get out of the echo chamber. You have to understand your pivot points, how to create content. The advantage was really built off of the time frame when I was ripping my own hair out. And, I can't tell you how many random objects just went flying across my living room to the wall. Don't even know how any of that happened. But the advantage is built off the missing pieces. What nobody talks about. It's the things that nobody teaches you, whether
Mhm.
you're a complete beginner in, any niche, trying to understand content, no matter where you are. I built something that meets you where you are, regardless of where that is, regardless of what your understanding is. As well, I think I maybe left out is just, understand that this is a business. This is gonna, it's gonna take a minute. Give your, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah. Realistic expectations. I feel like we're all in such a hurry to get to the end goal, but we're not giving ourselves the realistic time frame that's needed in order to
Right.
build something that's sustainable and substantial. Thank you so much, Tara. And for anyone that wants to dive deeper into the work that you do with the algorithm advantage, where can they find you online?
They can find me on Instagram at Tara O'Malley Official.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you
Well,
for
thank
coming
you
on
so much
today.
for having me. This was so much fun and such a great pleasure of mine.
No worries at all. I really enjoyed the chat. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing all your knowledge and everything that you know about Instagram and the digital landscape. And I can't wait to share it all with our audience.
Yes, I'm excited for it. Let's
Thank
drop
you.
that knowledge.